Okay. On my last video about the penguins and Trump, somebody said that it was reasonable that he tariffed the penguins because there is a loophole that states that if they're not tariffed, people like China can use the islands or the countries that have no tariffs on them to use that to bring goods to those islands and then trade through them and bring goods through them to America without paying tariffs. It sounds fairly reasonable, but the reality is it's not. There are trade laws in every country around the world. Okay. And they're there for a reason. They're there to protect people. All this is I don't like the fact that there are islands off the coasts of other countries that I haven't put tariffs on. They're completely unoccupied countries that people have never gone to. Nobody's ever inhabited. And because nobody inhabits these islands, just in case somebody makes this weird discovery that if they put goods on this island and then take goods off this island and bring them to my country, they won't have to pay tariffs for them. It's this really childish kind of way of thinking, and it is childish. It sounds like playground antics, and it is playground antics. There's nothing diplomatic about that. It's playground antics. It's immature. It is playground antics. It is completely playground antics. It is the kind of thing you expect to see when it's this concept of, if you're friends with me, you can't be friends with them. If you do this, you can't do that. You know, if you're on my team, you're not allowed to be on their team. Now, in the playground, that's completely reasonable. It is completely reasonable when you're in the playground, you know, amongst all your friends and amongst all the people in there, because you're all children, and children have to take sides because that's playgrounds, you know, playground politics, you know. But we're not in the playground anymore. We're not in the playground anymore. He is a 78-year-old man behaving like a child. Islands of McDonald's and Honours, they're uninhabited by people. Completely uninhabited by people. People don't go there. People don't trade there. Nobody uses those islands. Nobody's ever considered using those islands for trade. There have never been an occasion where they've even been used for smuggling. There was nothing on those islands that state that there was ever going to be any kind of an occasion when a country was going to use those islands to sneak past the tariffs. There just wasn't. There was never going to be a moment where somebody was going to sit there and go, "Ooh, look, these islands haven't been tariffed. Quick, ha 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 ha, we can use this to sneak past the tariffs." No, there wasn't. Nobody cared. Because we've been facing these tariffs head on. The politics of our countries, we've been sitting there going, we're going to deal with Americans this way. We're going to put up with them this way. We're going to face Trump, and we're going to face him with these laws and these laws and these laws. You can't do this because of this. Trump can't do this because of this law. And how dare you put these tariffs up this high? And if you do this, we're going to counter you with this. There are laws in each country, and as far as China's concerned, they have already stated that if America wants a war of any kind, they are more than happy to go to war of any kind. They're not going to sneak past your defences. They're going to fight you head on. They're not going to play stupid games because they're not children. And they've never been children. You know, they're not children. When it comes to war of any kind, they're not going to play sneaky tactics because they do not sneak tax. You know, they're not going to go, "Oh, let's find a remote little island full of penguins and go, oh yeah, let's sneak past all the defences and do it this way." No. He has stated on numerous occasions that if America wants a war of any kind, he'll give you a war of any kind. He said it head on. He's not afraid of it. He's not going to sneak it. He's not going to play games. He'll give America a war if America wants a war. If Trump wants to play stupid games, he'll play games, and he'll play games his way. And you don't want to play games with China because China's a master at games. You know, China's really good at playing games. You don't want to play games with China because China's been playing games for a long, long time, and they are masters at it, especially when it comes to tactics of war. You know, they are really good at people's heads. They can do it. They're very, very good at getting in people's heads. They are known for it. You don't want to play games with China, but Trump seems to want to. It's not a very sensible thing to be doing, but he wants to do it. They're not going to sneak round to these obscure little penguin islands and go ha 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 ha. Now we're going to trade with them that way. No, they're going to go. Well, instead of doing this, we're going to stop trading with America and we're going to trade with everybody else instead, which is exactly what the world has now done. We have found a way to stop trading with America. That is what the world is doing. We're not going to do sneak attacks and sneak trades to get to America. The world faces their problems head on. The world faces Trump and go, we're not playing your game with tariffs. You're going to tariff up to the hills. We'll find cheaper trades elsewhere. We're trying cheaper tariffs elsewhere. And that's exactly what we're all doing. We're playing politics. We're not playing sneak attacks around stupid little islands that belong to penguins. It's immature. It's playground childish antics. We all left the playground a long, long time ago. We are all far too mature to go back to the playground. All that Trump is doing by saying, it's because of this loophole in the tariffs, that mean that they can go and sit on this little island with their trade and then come round to us by not paying tariffs. It's immature. It is immature. It can sound very reasonable. It can sound reasonable. But it's immature because nobody plays that game. We are all far too mature for that game. We are older, we are wiser, we are far more mature, and it's just ridiculous. We're not in the mood for playground antics. Childishness is not who we are. It's not how we play. We sit there and we come to the table and we go, we're not doing that. If you want to keep upping your tariffs, we'll find someone else to play with. Nah, we're not going to play your game. We'll find someone else who is cheaper and can give us what we want. America forgets that we're older than them. Trump's stuck in his own little world. He forgets that, like everybody else in America, they forget how young they are. We didn't need you before. We'll find a way to not need you again. If you're going to up your tariffs, we'll find someone else to trade with. It won't be difficult. Everything you have to offer us, somebody else will offer it to us cheaper. That simple. You know, you don't hold the monopoly for the world. Other people can give us what you give us, and they can offer it to us much cheaper. And right now, Canada is standing at the forefront. Mexico are coming up real fast. You know, they are really beginning to come up to the forefront, and so is Asia. You know, our trade with Asia is really beginning to come up. You know, China, Canada, Mexico, they are really coming to the forefront in trade. Something they were always sitting in the background for. They're really stepping up. Because everything that America could have handled us, they've got in abundance. Between all three of them, we can get everything we need. The whole world can come together and get everything we need. Why do you think Saudi Arabia is now making deals with Asia? It's not difficult when Africa stops trading with America and starts trading with other countries like Canada. You know, when Canada and Mexico start bypassing America and trade with each other directly. There's a reason for it. When China gets involved and starts trading directly with Canada instead of America, there's going to start playing this game of slowly but surely, if Donald Trump doesn't stop, America will lose more and more trade because we'll find what we need elsewhere and cheaper. Playing silly games and pulling all this playground antics stuff, this childish, immature stuff like tariffing penguins, it makes you look ridiculous. And it's, no matter how reasonable you sound to the American people, it's immature to the rest of us. It makes no sense to the rest of us because we're sitting here going, nah. It's ridiculous. It's immature. It's childish playground antics. Something we left behind us a long time ago. You have to remember that. We left all this kind of crap behind us thousands of years ago. We are far too mature to put up with this crap. He's not listening to anything we have to say. We're older. We've learnt a lot. We've tried telling him. He won't listen. When we all come to the table, a lot of your presidents have listened to us and all learnt a lot from us. When we all sit at the table together, we all learn from each other. We all listen to each other. Trump, however, will not listen. And he has learned nothing. And now he looks just as childish as he sounds. Unfortunately, it's making America look really childish because he's just playing childish, immature games with the rest of the world. And now he's just cheesed off China. It's never a good flame to do it. Cheesing off Asia is never a good idea. You unite Asia, you've done something wrong. We've never managed to do that. Unite Chinese, unite the whole of Asia and Asia Minor. We've never done that. We've never managed to cheese them off enough to unite them. We've never managed to do that. It's this concept that Trump is immature and he's making America look immature. He's making America look childish and the people are suffering for it. And if he doesn't stop, it's not going to end well. Tariffing the penguins because of some loophole in the trade is immature, completely immature. Can sound very reasonable, but it's just immature. And until he learns to listen to all of us older, wiser, and more experienced countries who have gone through a hell of a lot of learning and a hell of a lot of changing. We've dealt with a lot, we've been through a lot, we've had to learn a hell of a lot of lessons. We don't try and tell your president things for no reason. It's because we've had to learn a lot of lessons over our years. There's a reason we're all still standing, and it's not because we were lucky. It's because we learned our lessons from the storms that we've been through. We had to grow and learn and change to still be standing as strong as we are. Otherwise, we would have fallen apart. Our empires would have not just fallen, we would have fallen off the face of the earth, like all the other empires that fell off the face of the earth, that weren't strong enough to actually change and grow and make a difference. And, there's a reason we're standing where we are now, all over the world. The countries that are standing now are there for a reason. And it's not because we're slow at learning or because we conquered each other or because, we've stood still. It's because we've grown, we've learned our lessons, we've changed. It's because when things have gone wrong for us, we've had to pick ourselves back up and start again. You know, we've had to, you know, fall apart and grow again, you know. We've had to hit rock bottom and then, you know, stand up multiple times. We've had to learn a hell of a lot of different lessons. We've had to grow stronger. We've, you know, from being weak to be who we are now has taken a lot of hard work. And we pass those lessons on to the younger countries. All of us do. You know, there isn't one country that's been standing for thousands and thousands of years that do not pass their lessons on to the younger countries. We do it all through history. You know, you see it throughout all of the history books where we stand there and we tell the world who we are and what we've done and how we've survived. When we all come to the table politically, we teach each other because that's our job. We listen to each other, we teach each other, we show each other different ways, and we grow and we learn from each other year after year. That's how we remain strong. But America isn't listening right now because their leader isn't listening. And now America is getting weaker because their leader is a child playing games that sound really, really reasonable. And they do sound reasonable until you actually think about them. And you can absolutely guarantee that through history, these things did happen. And if you take a look back in the 1930s Germany, everything that that man did to rise to leadership before World War II started, sounded really reasonable to the people. And then World War II started. And all of a sudden, all those reasonable things that he said, all those reasonable things that he did, took a turn for the worst. All those millions that lost lives. All those atrocities he took. Because of the reasonable things that he said before. He was so reasonable before all that. He really was. He was great at telling people what they wanted to hear. He was so commanding and he was so reasonable, and everything he did, the German people thought, yeah, this is a great thing for us. Everything he's doing is amazing and reasonable and is right, until it wasn't. Question I have is that just because it sounds reasonable doesn't mean it is. And when you start tariffing penguins and people start calling it reasonable, just because it has some ridiculous meaning of a loophole in trade that has never had anything to do with trade, when you actually sit and think about the reality that penguins have nothing to do with trade, and if these islands were so important in trade, nobody would have found any of this ridiculous in the first place. But they do. And it's all over the world. Everybody is finding him ridiculous for tariffing penguins. Because he is tariffing penguins, not the island. And he can't tariff the island because there's no humans on the island. It is unoccupied by humans. Humans don't go there. At all. It is very, very, very rarely visited by humans. You know, they are islands that are exceptionally rarely visited by humans. It is entirely populated by penguins and, seals and, those types of things. It's not human population. There are no humans on that island. So there's nothing reasonable about what he's doing. If there was any kind of trade regularly going through there, people would be there regularly. But they're not. So it's not reasonable. It's just childish. And it's playground antics. It just sounds reasonable until you actually consider thinking about it from a realistic point of view. There's nothing reasonable about this. He needs to start listening to reason, or he's going to send America farther down, because we will eventually find a way to stop trading with America if he doesn't stop what he's doing, because we won't put up with it forever. It's unfortunate, really.